actors. I mean, it was developing the alien itself was such a complex problem that I thought, well, I'll put the characters off for a later draft.
It went, as most things do, through a period of trying to get a package. But this, when you're going with the studios, they offer top dollar. They went to everybody. Every top A-level actor and director.
We had asked Walter at first place if he wanted to direct it. And since he was part of the package.
Walter was originally going to do it. And then he decided that he did not have the temperament for special effects.
Apparently Gordon talked to Robert Aldrich. Didn't like what Aldrich had to say. He asked Aldrich how he would handle the face-hugging creature. Aldrich said, oh, no problem. I'll just go to the market and get a liver and throw it on the guy's face. Gordon didn't want to hear that.
I was convinced that it wasn't a small picture, that the way to do it was to scale it up and to do it with whatever sense of craft and design and to make it an A picture.
Peter Gates, the studio, wanted. We weren't crazy about that idea, but I think he didn't want to do it finally. I talked to Jack Clayton about it, and he didn't want to do it.
And everybody said no, because they said, we had no credibility, and of course directors would have credibility, but almost none of them wanted to do it. They thought it was a stupid monster movie, a dumb thing with something coming out of your chest like a Japanese horror movie, and none of them had the vision. None of the A-level directors we went to had the vision to see it.
You needed to have a director that was going to give it some kind of real, other than traditional science fiction look. You had to have real actors in it. You had to have, all of that. And never let on that it was a B-monster movie, but make it deliver on that, at that level.
In those days, I think between the Duelists, which had been something that was completely self-driven by myself and my pocketbook, because I found the writer, found the story, paid for the script, got no fee, and was the completion bond. So that was my first experience in the movie business.
I saw the Duelists at Cannes and talked to Sandy Lieberson, who knew Ridley pretty well, Sandy was head of Fox in Europe. And we kind of presented him as the candidate.
Walter Hill and I went screened the picture that he had done, and the Duelists. We were absolutely stunned by his control of the picture, his mounting of the film. It really is an extraordinary film with a lot of depth, richness.
All of a sudden, they said that they had met with a director none of us had heard of, named Ridley Scott, who was a director of commercials from England. I said, what has he done? I said, he did a film called The Duelists. And they screened it for us. Very nice looking picture. I couldn't see what it had to do with science fiction, but they weren't looking at it from that perspective, and they may have had a point.
Someone had seen The Duelists at Cannes, which got a prize at Cannes. And out of the blue came this offer. I think it must have been within about 6 months, actually. And I read the script, and I think within 26 hours I was standing in Hollywood. I read the script, said, I'll do it. They said, you will? I said, yeah. So I was flown out. So I suddenly started to feel the Hollywood machine kicking in.
I think it is really clever casting, in actual fact, the fact that somebody who's obviously got a good eye and also would give a completely different quality to what could have been a very sort of, maybe an exciting, but nonetheless a B movie.
That first encounter was good, and then I went back and said, what I have to do is storyboard the movie. So with great excitement and glee, I storyboarded the movie in London, which actually took me 3.5 weeks. I worked day and night, went back with the boards, and the budget doubled, which just shows the power of a well-thought-through storyboard, because we went from 4.2 to 8.4 or something like that, because they suddenly saw a way to do the film which was, not doing it in a bunch of sets that looked like painted cardboard boxes with a dodgy man in a rubber suit running around as the Beast, but in fact, I'd put a statement into it. I'd had I don't like the word, but had a vision of what to do with the spacecraft and what to do with the spacesuits, and I was fully influenced at that moment, mostly by 2001, actually. Oh, and Star Wars. I thought that first Star Wars was formidable. But that was the fairy story, you see. Star Wars is the fairy story. I was going to do the Texas Chainsaw Massacre of science fictions, which I still think Texas is one of the most formidable. If you're going to do a horror movie, there it is.
Being a horror film and a sci-fi fanatic, I kept sort of saying, well, this is a film you've got to see, because he hadn't really seen many of those things, and I think so I was trying to sort of, in my own naive way, educate him as to, well, this is a sci-fi great, Ridley. You've got to see this, you know. You've got to see It, the Terror from Beyond Space, or all that sort of thing. And Ridley sort of looked at them as sort of an absolute horror, because he wasn't excited by any of them. I think the only thing he was excited by was Texas Chainsaw Massacre, actually.
I always felt it was a pretty straightforward action thriller. The old dark house, basically. And we're going to watch them each get taken out by this terrible beast. That's as B-movie as you can get.
Whoever directed this movie, you know, was not going to quit on a monster until he has it, that you can believe it, that it'll look right. And I thought that was the single most important thing you could have for this movie.
The thing that really worried me most of all, because I figured I could get all the environment right, all the costumes right, you can get the casting right. But who was this beast? What was this beast going to be? And that's where we started talking, you know, in great detail about Giger.
Ridley did one thing which enamored him to me. First time I met him, I shoved Giger's art book into his hands.
And I saw the Giger illustrations of that one in Necronomicon, which I thought, that's it, that's no question, that's it. I talked at length with Dan O'Bannon on this, and he said, what do you think? I said, that's it. He said, that's right.
And the idea that came to me looking at Giger's paintings was, you know, if somebody could get this guy to design a monster movie, you'd have something completely original no one had ever seen before.
But Fox hated Giger's work because they said, people will stay away in droves. This is so ghastly. It's too much. It's too much. It's repulsive. And we said, no, it's done so beautifully. It all depends on the way the director utilizes it.
The first question you ask, well, what is the alien going to look like? Is it going to be a guy in a rubber suit with fins? And Dan opened Necronomicon, Giger's book, and we were just stunned. Same thing with Ridley. The first second that Ridley saw Giger's work, he knew that the biggest single design problem, maybe the biggest problem in the film, had been solved.
I just thought it was stunning, and I just stuck to my guns saying, no, that's it. And they said, but let's bring him in and talk some concepts. I said, no, you can't do that. That's it. We want to be shooting by so-and-so. That's it. Just to get this right is going to be incredibly difficult. This is beautiful, not just threatening, and also has very sexual connotations. So in everything, it's like a rather beautiful humanoid, biomechanoid insect. So then I flew to Zurich because old Giger will not get on a jet. Terrified of flying. I think he's probably still terrified of flying. And I met him at his house, and I found him to be very nice and very sweet and very articulate and very specific. And he started going down this thing, and I'll redesign. I said, no. So we went through the same conversation again. I said, you don't need to. You've got 5 other things to design. Right through from egg, facehugger, chestburster, and what's that? 3. Then the beast.
I didn't want to have eyes because it makes the monster more dangerous. It's more scary, and because you never know where the monster is looking. This is the painting, the old alien that Ridley Scott wanted to have for his film, and that called Necronom number 4, and I did it in 1976. The only thing in the alien is the difference is that they have kind of sunglasses. Now we have this kind of shell, and here the tail, it's different, and yeah, also The other things, like these tubes and this, is like the alien. First, it was only a short time I should draw the monster. I did this here in Zurich, and then I had to come, then I haven't heard anything, and then I had to come to England. So he said, please come over for 3 or 4 weeks. And then at the end, I was about 5 months there, I think. Altogether, 7 months. Ridley wants that I do the 3 monsters. That was the face hugger, the chest burster, and the big alien. And then later on, I could do the rest of the surrounding of the alien.
I was using Dune as my model of how to design a science fiction movie, the idea of getting great artists together in a room and having them all work. And we were doing that on Alien. It was me in charge instead of Jodorowsky. And we had the walls full of these dazzling designs for everything in the movie.
He had a kind of a wish list of people he wanted to work on this film. One was Hans-Rudi Giger, myself, and Chris Foss, the British science fiction illustrator. And he always had this dream project that all 3 of us would work on this one film, and he got his way. And even before there was a director, Chris and I had a series of little art department above an old sound stage on Fox for a long time, drawing and meeting directors as they would come in and look at the drawings and try to find out who was going to do what, and when and where, and if it would ever go.
I knew Ron as a political cartoonist from the Los Angeles Free Press. Everybody loved his cartoons. And I had the gall to actually call him on the phone and go visit him in his apartment in Westwood. We became friends that way. And I discovered something that at that time was not known about him, that he did science fictional paintings. And they were incredible.
Dan came to me with the script, the original script that he and Ron Shusett had written for Alien, and had me read it, and it was quite amazing. And he wondered if I could help him do some visualizations, a series of paintings that he could send around with the script, and I did quite a few, and but we were still groping as to what the thing should look like. But I was very, very interested in astronautics and space flight and aerospace design and ideas of the future, and also science fiction as a kind of future mythology. So all this just clicked with me, and I was very, very excited about it. We all contributed all kinds of things for the different versions of the script, and Chris Foss just turned out tons and tons of exterior drawings of what the ship should look like. And we kind of differed in that he was very metaphorical and sort of fantastic, and I was very interested in tapping the idea of what things could look like if they were drawn from a more realistic consideration of what a spaceship should be, without going NASA. Create the sense of confined space, spaces at a premium inside, that the idea that it was, with all the pressure doors, that it was pressurized, all those things I thought would contribute to the tension of the film. And they weren't particularly there in the in a lot of the early versions and visions of what it should look like. So I had to do a lot of persuading.
Ron Cobb was going to do the monster, and he had some drawings and all the rest of that stuff. And Ron's a real talented guy, and ended up doing a lot of the ship, but his monster was not too hot.
He kind of designed the sort of spaceship interiors and thing. I think the sort of Nostromo and the Narcissus, he did those kind of designs because he had, I mean, he's rather like Sid Mead was to Blade Runner. He just had that expert. They were founded in logic, you know, and in reality.
This guy thinks like something's engineered. He's got a mind that he designed something that really seems like it'll work, a functioning model. He's so believable. He can make them so accurate.
I was more concerned with the Nostromo, because I knew that was going to be my ultimate contribution, would be to bring the Nostromo to life. When finally we would get Giger on board, and not just having him mail things in, he would be involved with the alien planet and the alien. We all knew that that's what Dan wanted, you know. Chris Foss was to sort of take care of the exterior of the ship, and I was going to do the interior sets. There would be a production designer, but Dan wanted all our inputs to be very much noted.
I used to be very into the metal hurlant, the heavy metal comics from France, and all the Mobius and people like that. And I think I'd managed to infect Ridley with that enthusiasm, etc. He could treat sci-fi in the same way that he treated history, like the Duelists. Before that, he was the sort of he was the expert at everything. He put a different slant on shooting historical things. Because it was just, I guess it was his eye for detail, really.
I was steeped in heavy metal comics of those at the particular time, like Metal Hurlant and a lot of Mobius' stuff, actually. And I was very impressed by that, and I just...